it's Hunter and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, it is so nice to meet you. Today, I have a bunch of books beside me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. I have 10 books. These are 10 books that I wish I could read again for the first time. Sometimes I feel like there is not a way to properly convey how you feel about a book, and the way that I can convey how I feel about these books is by saying, I wish I could read them again for the first time. That's pretty much it. Like, I love these books so much. They all hold a very special place in my heart, and yeah, I love them so much, so I'm just gonna share them with you. There are a couple books on this list that have been mentioned in several book videos before, but it is just because I feel so strongly about them. So before I get started, I would love it if you guys would subscribe to my channel down below and give this video a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that you like my video and will help push it to more people. YouTube is definitely on the lower side these days than it has been because a short form video has kind of just like taken over. So I would love it if you guys would enjoy watching my videos because that would help me a lot. So let's go ahead and get started. These are not really in any particular order, but we're gonna start with one of my faves. We have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book sits on my shelf. You can't see it, but there's a shelf up here on the wall, and this book sits there. Not just because it matches the aesthetic of the shelf, but also just because it's one of my faves. We have Girl Who Everybody Wants to Be, or Everyone Wants to Be With, and this band called The Six. They both have records out, but they don't do so well. They do okay, but they're not like the next big thing. You combine Daisy Jones, the artist, and The Six, the band, together and you have magic. And truly a magic book. Literally made me cry. I have read this twice. I listened to it on audiobook and I read it in the physical copy, and 10 out of 10, one of my top books of all time. Next is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Her books, particularly in the word I'm looking for, in the historical fiction genre, just really do it for me. This is about the Riva family. The first part of the book is about like the history of the Riva family, kind of how it was formed, so mom and dad coming together, how you get all the kids, and then after that the second half is about a party. So basically you have, let's just pretend this half of the book is it goes back and forth between family history to the party, and then this one is just the party. Heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, okay? If you could have, I wish I could have like had some sort of like testing done on my heart while I was reading this, because I felt literal pain while reading this, and I just thought it was really good. And yes, I've read it twice. Another book I have read twice. I read it for the first time when I was 16 years old. I was going to be a senior in high school, and this was a summer reading book. Afghanistan, 1950s is the beginning of the book, I believe. I'm not positive, but it's about two different women who are married to the same man in Afghanistan during the first rule of the Taliban, and it is truly heartbreaking, but it talks about relationships with women and the treatment of women during this time, and just overall incredibly heartbreaking, but so important and so good. I feel like a lot of books that take place in this part of the world, especially during this time period, are often overlooked, and this one is critically acclaimed. It is a school reading book for a reason because of how important it is, but I have never loved a school required reading book so much in my life. I read it again a few years ago, and 2 years ago maybe, 2020 or 2021, but I genuinely loved it so much that I wish I could read it again for the first time. Okay, you guys are gonna judge me for this one, but it's The Fault in Our Stars. In fact, I think I might actually reread it in 2023. This is genuinely just like one of my favorite books of all time. First of all, this book got me back into reading when I was in high school, and I have read it like 5 times. I used to have like every copy you could imagine. Movie cover, movie picture cover, the hardback. I had a paperback, I had a UK paperback, I had a Spanish paperback. Literally, I was obsessed with this book, and this book truly defined my senior year of high school. Everybody kept saying, oh, if you don't cry reading this, you're heartless. So I was like, okay, well, let's just see what it's about. And I didn't cry reading it, but it's genuinely just like so good. This was one of the first books I ever annotated, and I genuinely just love this book so much that I wish I could read it again for the first time and just experience it. If you don't know what The Fault in Our Stars is, it's about 2 kids who have cancer. We have Gus and Hazel, and they meet each other at a cancer support group, and it kind of just goes through their relationship. Love it so much, and lots of profound, at least I thought they were profound at the time. There's a quote on the front that I feel like perfectly describes it: electric, filled with staccato bursts of humor and tragedy. And I have to agree. I love his writing. He's one of my faves. This book will forever hold a special place in my heart. Next, this was in my top 10 books of 2022. It is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, and this is about women, a couple of women who go missing, cases go cold, and then one of the girls who goes missing returns. And the plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. Honestly, wasn't expecting anything that happened in this book, but I think the way that it was done was so well, like it was so well written that I wish, like the other ones I can experience those feelings again. This one, because it is a thriller and because those plot twists were done so well, I already know what happens, and so it's like not gonna have the same effect, if that makes sense. Which is why I wish I could read this again for the first time, because they were so good that the effect they had on me was just like insane. You know? 10 out of 10. If you are looking for a good thriller, this is a good one. Call me cliche, I don't care. We have Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, and this is the old cover, but Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. This was one of the first Soho books I read. I don't remember how long ago I read it, maybe in like 2020. Truthfully, there were just some plot twists that I was not expecting, and there are 3 books in the series, but there's really 2. I don't know how to describe it. There's this book, and then there's Losing Hope, and it is from the male perspective, so this is from Sky's perspective, and the other book is from Holder's perspective. And so it was like reading it for the first time again, but not, if that makes sense. And there were just some things in here that were completely unexpected, and a lot of people don't like Colleen Hoover's writing because they say it's too basic, but you know what? I don't think it's too basic. I liked it, okay? I wish I could read this again for the first time, so please don't come for me for liking this book. Thank you. That's all. False Witness by Karen Slaughter. Ask me if I cried. I did, okay? I did. Thrillers don't usually make me cry, and Karen Slaughter is an exception to pretty much everything I've ever read, okay? Her books are so gory, if I'm being honest. The books are just, they have a lot more detail than any other book that I've ever read in terms of gore when it comes to like murders and things. I don't know. It's very descriptive. Lots of trigger warnings involved for this book. Also, trigger warnings for Hopeless as well. Lots of trigger warnings for this, especially pertaining to drugs. But this is about a defense attorney in Atlanta, and her and her sister are trying to figure out this particular series of crimes. The sister is a drug addict, and I think that while I have never personally experienced drug addiction, I have encountered people in my life that I love so dearly and who have experienced drug addiction and struggle with it every single day. And so to watch someone's struggles with drug addiction in this book, especially from the sister's perspective, is very heartbreaking, and that's probably why I cried reading it, just because it felt very close to home to me. But overall, I just thought this was an incredibly told story. It is super long. Karen Slaughter books definitely take a lot of emotional bandwidth from me, so I definitely have to read like a palate cleanser book after hers, but still, they are so good. Next, I think, is like, I know this is not the first one to ever exist, but I would call this the blueprint for YA thriller. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is also something that I feel, if you are a person who is new to thriller, you kind of want to get your feet wet, but you don't want something gory like Karen Slaughter, then I highly recommend this whole series. This is the first one in the series, but I thought it was so good. I find that a lot of the characters in YA thrillers are very immature, and like, I know that they're typically in high school because that's how young adult novels work. So that's not really surprising. Like, you just have to get your mindset right. You have to like make yourself aware that like, hey, these are full-on adults. These are children. So I think that you have to get yourself in the right mindset, but even with that mindset, I feel like a lot of characters are very immature and stupid, and in this series, I don't think that they were. I felt like this was a very good way to show thriller and young adult thriller in a very good way, and I just really liked the story. They did an incredible job of solving this mystery. There's a podcast, I think that A Good Girl's Guide to Murder becomes like a blog or podcast in this book, and I feel like it's a good way to incorporate modern technology into this book without it being overbearingly like 2020s, if that makes sense. So I don't know, I just thought it was really good. I have another book from Karen Slaughter on this list, and it is The Good Daughter. This is probably my favorite of all of her books. This one, again, is very gory, okay? Very gory. It is like 500 pages long, so it is on the longer side. Yeah, 515 pages. But this is, okay, here's a quote in the back. The Good Daughter is Karen Slaughter's most ambitious, most emotional, and best novel so far anyway. Simply the best book you'll read all year. Raw, powerful, and utterly gripping, yet written with a tenderness and empathy that will break your heart. This, literally so good. I got it at Barnes & Noble for like $8, and I genuinely am so glad that I read this. It took me forever because it's such a long book. book. Also because it's a hardback and I don't typically like read hardbacks. If I do have a hardback, it is because it is like a trophy on my shelf, not because I've actually read the physical copy, but I did read the physical copy of this one, but it was so good. The tagline at the top is 2 girls are forced into the woods at gunpoint. One runs for her life, one is left behind. Again, very gory, very psychological thriller, but also lots of crime and very good. I wish I could read it again for the first time. And the last book on this list is actually like a book series, but particularly this one. And this is the perfect palate cleanser if you need a book that is funny, but also just has a really good story. It's Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. If you guys have seen the movie, honestly, forget you ever saw it and read the book because it is so funny. That's really all I can use. That's really all that I can say to describe this book is that it is just so funny. I don't know why I find it so funny. Okay, let me find something. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so this is just an example. So it is chapter 18. There is like a little asterisk right here. I don't know if you can see it, but then there's commentary. The commentary is golden, okay? Because some of these things they're just like, oh, this means it's like some of them are like translations, but then some of them are like the author's commentary, which I think is just, they're golden. They're so funny. This whole series is great. It's a great story and like I said, funny. So I would highly recommend, especially if you're looking for something to just like jump into reading without it being overwhelming and triggering. So anyway, that is my list of books that I wish I could read again for the first time because I want them to have the same effect they did the first time. You know, they were all fantastic. I loved them so much. I will link them all down below for you guys if you want to check them out. I would highly recommend reading all of them, but that's all I have for today. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.